very vital session. Bangalore is quite often in the news for a lot of urban challenges, a lot of climate related, a lot of built environment related challenges. Like many rapidly urbanizing cities, it confronts the dual challenge of growth and escalating climate impact, rising temperatures, erratic weather patterns, and resource scarcity. This panel that we have of reimagining Bangalore at 2 degrees Celsius urges us all to reimagine our future, how we build, live, and interact with our environment. The session has very critical stakeholders from Bangalore itself who have piloted innovative strategies, integrated collaborative solutions, and pathways for a better future for all of us. First of all, I have Aiyappa Somayanda, Chief Business Officer at Brigade. Aiyappa brings extensive experience in the real estate industry and urban development, with a special focus towards innovation. Brigade Group's own accelerator is at the forefront of identifying and scaling PropTech, Smart Tech, and construction tech startups. We have Wilma Rodrigues, founder and CEO of Saahas Zero Waste. She is a pioneering leader in waste management and the circular economy, having more than 2 decades of experience promoting sustainable waste management across the country. Her organization specializes in innovative strategies from managing waste, resource recovery, and converting waste into valuable resources. We have Madam Nalini Shekar, co-founder, currently Director of Finance and Special Projects at Hasiru, Dala, a prominent social activist and a key figure in inclusive waste management. She champions the rights and formulation of waste pickers, advocates for their inclusion in sustainable waste management across the country. Finally, I have Akshatha Venkatesha, who is the Inclusive Climate Action City Advisor, C40 Cities, who brings a unique blend of experiences data-driven urban planning and community engagement. Her work involves collaborating with city stakeholders across the globe to develop and implement climate strategies that are both effective and equitable. I have initially just saying that a lot of our cities have undergone a lot of rapid transformation over the past decades. Bangalore itself has gone through the IT boom, then the startup and innovation boom, and it's an innovation powerhouse today across the country. Yet, this has brought about a lot of urban challenges as well. We cannot trade off growth for sustainability or vice versa today. I want to ask a common question to all of us here today. From 10 years from now, on the paradigm of reactive to regenerative urban thinking, how far along have you gotten? Aiyappa, could you please start?
Hi. First of all, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here, the AndPurpose team. I think it's a very esteemed panel to be a part of. I think it's really driving a lot of change in the industry, seeing firsthand what they're doing, especially for Bangalore. I think I've been in the city for more than 22 years, been in Karnataka all my life, but huge transformation in the city. Coming to the specific question, I think, has it happened? Yes and no. I mean, it's the favorite answer, right? Yes and no. Yes, to a certain level, I think a lot more regenerative strategies have been coming in, and I think it's on the onus. I also represent the real estate group, Brigade Group, which is one of the biggest developers in the city. So there are a lot of practices that we do at the group level, and I think it is going to be top down. I think you're going to expect your top level developers and your top level people to start off with it. But I think there's still a lot more that can be done, including what we do at the group level. I think a lot has to be done in the real estate space. And I'll come back into what we're doing at REIT, and I think there's a lot to be done here. But to answer your question short, I think they have a lot more to add than I do in this specific space. But I think there is some parts being done. I think there's some parts being done on water. There's still a long way to go in water. I think air quality is something that we've started monitoring in a few key projects, especially commercial projects. Again, more on the not much. It's kind of still been a bit reactive in the sense, if I may say so. But I think waste management is a massive play. A lot happening at the design stage itself nowadays. But again, much more qualified people than me can talk about that. But I think broadly, yes. I think we are there, but I still think there's a long way to go. Ideally, we should have been at a much better place than we are today, but let's see where the future goes for that.
Akshatha?
Thank you. Just to give you an idea about C40 cities, we are a network of about almost 100 cities globally. Bangalore has been a C40 city since 2017. This means that the city is committed to sort of honor the Paris Agreement, which even the first panel sort of brought it up. The city launched a climate action plan about 2 years ago. The preparation of that took about 2.5 years to 3 years of time. And I want to sort of emphasize here the inclusivity that has stood out in the preparation of the climate action plan itself. So yes, largely like many cities across the globe, if we are sort of being reactive, we're also a city which has a climate action plan. It is not a statutory document, which means it's not a mandate. The ESGs are, but the city has still come forward to bring forth. We have more than 200 action tracks across 7 sectors, and each sector for the vulnerable communities has been added within 1 year of preparation and implementation. So that shows a commitment from the city to wanting to do all this.
Well, the fact is that, I've been in Bangalore since 1995, and I remember the 1995. And do I want 1995 the way it was and before, even before 1995, back in 2025? Yes. I would like to see, the fact that if we had a city that had a lot in terms of climate, in terms of water, in terms of far less waste on the streets, a city that had given so much to its people, and today when we see what we as a people have given back to the city, I feel they're falling short. They're falling terribly short, and when we talk of trade-offs, I feel that we have actually traded what we had and what we should be having today in a much better way. So there's a lot that we have to do, therefore not react, but understand that the system that we have today and which we all enjoy as convenience or comforts, we need to kind of put that big question mark. Now, Saahas Zero Waste works with waste, and we've seen in the last 25 years, the first solid waste rules came in 2000 and we all celebrated because we thought, okay, this was what the city needs, that we've got to manage waste, that we don't need landfills, that we have to take responsibility for our waste, that we have to take care of people working with waste. All of that was part of the Waste Management Rules 2000. And then we had the 2016 rules. And again we rejoiced because we said, that here you have responsibilities for brands, for industry, for tech parks, managing their own waste, putting in composting systems, looking at reduce, refill, plastic waste, all of that. And now we are on the brink of 2025, rules coming in October, and I know as an organization, there is that sense of gloom. That sense of gloom that in 25 years we have not enforced the municipal solid waste rules, and how are we going to do it now with this new set of rules that puts very simple expectations for all of us. Segregate your waste, do home composting, be zero waste, have a zero waste lifestyle. All of those solutions are there before us as people. And yet, as I said before, we fall short. So let's also, kind of do our own introspection and understand that so much lies with each of us. And of course, as individuals, maybe we have limitations for our voices to be heard, but definitely as larger organizations, brands, real estate, far more can be done. And definitely even more if we have governance and government actually, working in the interest of the people and working to actually enforce the regulations that they have to do. Yeah? So I think what I would like for us to do through these discussions is to celebrate less and look how we can actually put intent to action.
I think like this is not very comforting. I think we did quite well as a city before the pandemic. The number of volunteers, citizens who were on the street, number of new innovations that came during that phase was a lot. And a lot of people learned from people from Bangalore and did it better. So I think waste management is really not a rocket science, but it is, the governance is essential. And many people, when you go and talk to the officials, they say, oh, they're on, from other cities, they are not invested in Bangalore. But I can tell you, of the 3,000 volunteers we had, at least 50% of them were not from Bangalore. So I think we should, we were really believing in decentralized waste management. That means every ward can be seen as its own city, and you can do the governance there much easily and do better practices there, but somehow we have lost that decentralization discussions, discourse and voice of citizens. So I think I'm really an optimist. So I think we have many of us here like this who want to get back to where we were, and I'm sure we will get back there. One of the things I would say the city and the state has done over the years is inclusive waste pickers inclusion. Right from 2016 we have been doing. Bangalore City was the first one to give occupational identity cards to waste pickers. Then in 2016 it became a law. So after a lot of hard work now, Ministry of Social Justice has taken up through their Namaste scheme to enumerate every waste pickers in the country. So it is a long standing work for us. So I feel there is so much more hope to do it. May not be today, but tomorrow we can all get back and start working again, rolling up sleeves and work.
Thank you all. Wilma, having worked in the waste space for quite some time, quite overlooked waste stream as well. You've built something fantastic, from discharge to material management and basically reintegrating back into the industry. What positives have emerged? What innovations have happened? Something that can shed a positive light and something that we can take forward.
Yeah, so electronic waste is a waste stream now which has got attention for the last more than 20 years. And luckily for us, we do have regulations around it. And that is why we as an organization with a business model, a social enterprise, looking at impact, social and environmental, we're happy to actually include e-waste as one of our verticals. So whilst we do work with wet waste and dry waste, e-waste was one of the verticals that we work with at an upstream level, where people who generate waste have an opportunity to do the right thing, to channel it to proper recycling. Yeah, so there is compliances in recycling, and in order for that to happen, you also need to collect and aggregate and make sure that the recyclers get this material. So we work in the space where we actually collect, sort, aggregate, and then give it to recyclers. But what we need then is the brands, the industry to actually engage with us in a manner that becomes a partnership. It shouldn't be a compliance for the brand and then look at us just as another kind of contractor or an agency. So that partnership is something that needs to be strengthened for all these kind of businesses, the social businesses that we have. Now, for us, right now you have the EPR regulations, and unfortunately those regulations, you have brands who are pushing back. You have big brands who would rather that that this kind of compliance would be made easier for them. So that's the kind of constraints that social enterprises like us have. What I'd also like to bring attention that when we are looking at electronic waste, there's a huge possibility for reuse And that's the space that we've also entered in the last 2 years, where we refurbish laptops. And these refurbished laptops, can be made available to people, to students, and to everybody else, even to professionals. And that is something that we would like the market to accept. Yeah, that you don't need to go in for something new, that this is as good as new, and we hope that many more, especially younger people, will kind of show us how the life of materials can be extended, and therefore as consumers we will actually reduce before we think of recycling.
Thank you. Nalini, as quite the pioneer in the inclusive space for waste pickers, how do you now define the organization? Is it a non-profit? Is it a social enterprise? Or is it a livelihoods movement? From all that you've experienced with Hasiru Dala, what are the next steps to build?
I think all three plus. I would say in any one kind of organization setup doesn't address all the issues of people. We work with about 26,000 waste pickers family in Karnataka and some parts of Andhra Pradesh. And not everybody can get a job in the government, sanitation workers or elsewhere. So we need to build a business where we create spaces or open up market where waste picker cannot get it now. So we need a business, but it is also building the agency of the community is very important. So they take over their own challenges with them. So livelihood is a movement, but if you really want to make a change in the living standards of people, meeting the aspiration of the next generation, it has to be movement of their own. So now waste pickers have their own union called Shramika Sangha, and we have also fought a lot for the name called Shramika in the government, because first they used to call waste pickers. In Kannada they used to use a word called chappar. Chappar means people who carry stolen goods on the shoulder. So our waste pickers refused to use that word, and we fought with the government to take away Chindi Ayoru, that's people who pick up rags, rag pickers. We have moved that, and in 2016 we really worked hard to get the name waste pickers, and in Karnataka, Tyajya Shramika Sangatane. Tyajya Shramika is the name. So even in the recent labor department, again they had listed them as Chindi Ayoru. So we had to fight. People who come from Bangalore, they understand, but sorry, this is the language that we really fought to get to the thing. So every different kinds of organization is needed if you really want to work at around 360 degrees of a community. So I think all of them are at plus.
Thank you. Aiyappa, 8 cohorts, 80 tech startups supported, green infrastructure, intelligent water system, energy efficient buildings. What started Brigade and how it has evolved over the years? How do you see this going forward?
Great. So I think on supply chain, I think 80 startups, and I think not necessarily all thematic. Okay? I think innovation need not necessarily only be tech. Innovation could be business processes. Innovation could be multiple things in innovation. Right? The credit for this definitely goes to Shankar, our managing director, joint managing director, who started this 9 years back. And to be very honest with you, the intent that Nirpa started it 9 years back was because no one was solving for real estate startups. You had fintech which was cool, you had D2C came much later, but you had fintech which was cool, there were people who were building in consumer spaces, people who were building all over the world, but real estate startups really didn't have much support and they didn't have much funds or VCs looking at the space. So 9 years back, Nirpa started this, and over the last 8.5, 9 years, we built a portfolio of 80 startups. Started off by supporting, the thesis was to support real estate or prop tech, like we like to call it. But today, in the 82 startups that we have, close to 22 of them have a sustainability or a built environment play. And honestly, that happened naturally. It's not like we went out there saying, hey, we want to find sustainable startups. We realized that real estate is one of the biggest cognizers out there in the market, and I know we speak a lot about policy. There are some policies in place, but unless you find solutions for it right now, like the Brigade group has taken a pledge to be net zero by 2045, right? It might seem far away, but unless a lot of it is done in the embodied carbon stage now, embedded carbon stage now, sorry, nothing is going to be achieved in 2045. So naturally, we built a good portfolio, I must say, of startups in the space. It's been a great journey working with a lot of them. A lot of them still can't be coming. I think Abhijit and Samhita in the previous panel also spoke about a few of the innovations happening in the space. In the ESG front, I think HVAC, energy conservation is a big play. I am unfortunately a numbers guy, I'm a business guy. I come in with the philosophy is good to have, but unless you can show tangible results, right, to the developer, I think we work with Saahas and Brigade. And a lot of our portfolio startups also buy recyclers from you at Saahas, and we procure products from there. So unless the math makes sense, unless there is a direct, sorry to say, there's a business end product with it, it's all a good to have. And when it's a good to have, you will never have mass adoption. To have mass adoption and to have people really buy into it, I think there are solutions that we're seeing a bunch of them coming out, and I think the industry is also evolving and changing for the better. A lot of developers are open for change. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much our thesis. And just the last thing is that one of the visions that Nirupa started REAP was that it was never about finding startups for Brigade to work with. We work with all developers. So, like literally, Abhijit, we have a call on Monday about how Badmani can look at a few of our startups. We work with Prestige, we work with Purnakara, we work with, I can go on and on, right? GMR, my homes. Across the country, we work with developers because, again, an industry, real estate, sustainability is something that we don't want to gatekeep or keep in the company. It's something that we want to work. So anyone here who wants to work with any of the startups in this space, we're more than happy to and more than welcome to work with them.
Any exciting startup you'd like to share?
This is what happened when I think Nirupa went on one of the podcasts and Nikhil Kamath asked her to name drop a favorite startup, and soon after that she got a lot of messages saying, oh, I thought it would be me, right? I don't think, obviously I don't think I'm going to be as forward as Nirupa, but I think the broad spaces, I think for us energy conservation is an area we're very bullish about. We do have a few startups in space, such as Clareco. We also have Moderator who are solving for in the sewage treatment space in a very capex model. Again, not a tech, but more of a business and the business innovation that they've done. So I think Smarter Dharma are someone I think most people are aware of. Shriram has been in the market. If you're based out of Bangalore, you definitely heard of Shriram and Smarter Dharma, who are one of our portfolio companies, work with most of the real estate developers here. So I think they're, again, and just to name a few, none of them are necessarily my favorite. I like them all equally, but I think it's a very interesting space that we are in.
Thank you. Spoken like a true parent of the startups. Akshatha, C40, 100 cities. What do you see as leveraging climate data to solve urban challenges? And how has this multi-continent participatory approach helped Indian cities as
well? Anything to do with data is always a tough question. This is tough no matter which city one is sitting in, no matter which sector we're talking about. Only because numbers is not an easy game. It's also an uncomfortable topic for decision makers, it is an uncomfortable topic for political leaders, and for us too. Having said that, nothing goes without data. We as an organization have looked at many different sectors which are contributing towards GHG emissions everywhere. And these are harsh numbers and I'm not going to go into that. What I want to talk about is some sort of opportunities that exist. We have several accelerators and networks within C40, which again, we do this with the city mayors. In the absence of mayors in cities like Bangalore, we work with the city municipality and the administration here, and we develop what the city wants with the city leaders. In many cases, these data, what we have is an extrapolated number, but this is also where we start. This is also how climate action plans are prepared. As we speak, I think the project that I've been involved working with Saahas and sensing local, something that has stood up to us here in the city, and I'll just talk about the city, is we did not have an actual number of frontline workers. Each of us generates waste. There is somebody who's cleaning up our cities. There is more than one person. There is a system, and people in the system do not shy away from acknowledging that not everything is being done in the absence of data. Something that we've done as part of this project here in Bangalore was actually just chalk out the different stakeholders involved in the solid waste management ecosystem for the city, something that Hasiru Dala has done, Saahas has done, and many other organizations. And then next, it was to just identify the needs of these workers and why. This is our city. Again, there is somebody who is cleaning this up. What kind of training and capacity building needs are needed? What are the knowledge gaps that's there? And this is across sectors. This is across cities in C40. So we do sort of start with data at its raw base, be it in terms of people, be it in terms of the gas emissions, be it in terms of, I think to some extent population, because that's where everything starts from. And even the climate action plan that Bangalore has now, it is quite ambitious. It is data driven. We work with WRI and BBM to prepare this in place. And it's necessary because there is nothing without data. And how much does one rely on data? Like Aiyappa was saying, finally it's business. Everything, when it becomes number, becomes business. But then there are people involved. There are real people involved, from frontline communities to the decision makers and us in between. I think that was a vague response.
That's quite helpful. Thank you. Wilma, you had pointed out EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. Do you feel that it's making a more accountable and circular system? What opportunities has EPR opened up in this ecosystem now?
So EPR is a wonderful way. It's extended producer responsibility for different stakeholders to actually take responsibility for waste that is created at end of life. So today you have EPR for plastic waste, you have EPR for e-waste, and shortly it will obviously come for other waste streams including glass and paper and even textiles. The EPR system now has been there for quite a while. It's been since 2012-13, that was when the first EPR rules came up. So that was when we as an organization decided to come and step into the space so that we could offer solutions and partner with brands. But I think it needs far more than that. It needs definitely far more government enforcement. It also needs the brands to take their responsibility, and it needs the consumers to also push the brands so that this can be taken more, so that we can actually have a very robust implementation of these EPR regulations. But having said that, there is so much of opportunity for young entrepreneurs, and we are always so excited, because I am personally very excited to see the number of young people coming into this space because they want to solve this problem. The only thing is that we, on the other hand, need the rest of the ecosystem to match the enthusiasm of all those young entrepreneurs. Because the rest of the ecosystem is still stuck in, I'm sorry if I'm being a little bit negative here, but the rest of the ecosystem is still stuck in the 20th century. A 20th century which talked of linear economy, not just talk, but put forward this whole linear system. In the 20th century, you had profits, before planet and people. Today, of course, we talk triple bottom line, but again, it's just talk. It's still profits over everything else. And then you had, the young people today who need that market, who need brands who will say that, look, if we are closing the loop, then there's a whole system that has to be created. And like you have manufacturing, the take back and the recycling is equally complicated. So I would say, whilst there is a lot of requirement for young people to step into this space, we would need the industry, we would need government, and we would need the consumer to provide the enabling ecosystem so that that purpose to which these entrepreneurs come in can be fulfilled. Right now, many of them struggle because the market is not there, and on the other hand, you do have a lot of finance coming in this space because impact investment is coming in. But finally, and this I can give you from personal experiences, that when it comes to that final delivery, impact is not as important as the return on IRR. I mean, I'm sure there may be investors in this room, and I hope they will kind of think about it. So it comes down to that. We're talking too much, and we are also telling a lot of stories. We're telling stories like there is this Harari, right, the author of *Sapiens*, and he's written a wonderful book for children, where he says, the humans today are right on top of the planet, the most important species, and how did they get there? First, by cooperation. Yeah? We all cooperate, we build markets, we talk to each other, we communicate. But they also tell stories. Yeah? And that's coming to become our downfall. We talk about using plastic, it can be recycled. We talk about tech, it will solve all our problems, tech will make waste disappear. So let's come down to the ground, because that's where the change has to take place. And whilst there are a lot of young people in this room, I would welcome them to be in the space of impact, but let's be here because we really want to make that change. Not because we want to have a 20th century business.
One question. Building on from Wilma's point of young entrepreneurs really to come in, where do you see them struggle the most when they're beginning their journey? And what advice would you give them on how to prioritize growing in this space?
First of all, I think I echo everything Wilma said in terms of the industry, the support, what entrepreneurs need here. I think there are a bunch of entrepreneurs out there. I'm sure most of you are going through it. The industry we are in is a long sales cycle industry, unfortunately, so that means a lot of hard work to crack that first deal. But from our experience, that also the slight positive to that, with all the negative, is that once you crack that, typically this stickiness is quite high in this industry, right? Relatively. Coming back to areas that they should focus on, I think I broadly spoke about it. I think you need to have a solution that someone really needs. Right? The one slight change that we've been noticing in the industry, and it's not only Brigade, but whichever other developers we work with, in the last 4-5 years, there's been a lot more willingness to try new solutions. There's been a lot more willingness to pilot this out. Now, there's a whole different discussion about free pilots that unfortunately a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in the trap with, and most people will say, hey, happy to do a free pilot, but post that the business deal somehow disappears in their communication, right? So I think areas to focus on, build something that is a must-have, or at least adds a lot of value to the environment, whether it's real estate, whether it's on the infrastructure side, because we look at startups in hospitality, in retail, in commercial. One other asset class, sorry, I'm going a little technical here, if there are any founders here, one asset class that we've noticed, which is the most open to innovation and change, are commercial buildings. Simply because it's slightly top-down driven. Commercial tenants, when you have your MNCs like at Brigade, we have Amazon and Mercedes who are our two biggest clients, right? They look at all the ESG regulations and they look for Scope 3 norms. When they are looking at it that way, we as asset owners are also incentivized to find solutions that kind of help with it. So most of the solutions that we've spoken about also have got deployment in commercial buildings. The residential buildings, I think it's a huge debate about. Everyone likes to have they like to say that we love to live a sustainable lifestyle, and then you try to sell them an apartment or a land and say, hey, it's 5% more expensive. No one wants to do that, right? I think that's a challenge that there's a lot the government can play over there in terms of whether it's a carrot or a stick, right? You can either incentivize them, or you can, there are multiple approaches there, and I think that's again a different debate. But just a quick advice is, I think commercial buildings, whether it's offices, the hotels, are areas where innovation we've seen a lot of uptick for. The residential mainly more on the land, the design side, where before pre-construction is areas that we see a lot happening. And the last piece is the alternate material space, because we also have a lot of startups in that space. Not yet being used by co-construction today, but being used by a lot of other ancillary construction areas that's happening, whether it's clubhouses or interiors and things like that. Right? So broadly, these are the areas that we at REAP and Earth Fund, which is our sister concern, are kind of bullish about, but I hope that answers it.